Welcome back to Nick Lenz Comic Corner, classic slash non-classic. This is episode number 608 and Doubleshot 514. Two DC trades. One is the fourth volume of this series, I'll talk about in a minute, and another one from which is basically magic related. We'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, let's talk about this particular one. This is done by different artists. This is the artwork in here is done by Doug Mankey, Freddie E. Williams II, great artist, Yannick Yannick Padik, I think it's how you pronounce the person's name. Yeah, this artist also did this very cover, and she also did volumes 2 and 3. Doug Mankey is an artist who has, well, his most recent work, he actually worked with Grant Morrison again on Final Crisis. Yeah, he was second artist in the miniseries. He also was the artist for Pierre J. Tomasi's run on Superman Wonder Woman. Freddie Williams did the Batman TMNT series, both the first and second one. Unique Party recently did the Wonder Woman Earth 1 graphic novels. J.H. Williams, I've already talked about him. And Serge Laponi, yeah, this is the only trade I've seen of this guy. Yeah, and this trade collects Frankenstein 2 through 4. Yeah, it collects most of his miniseries in this one trade. Mr. Miracle 3 through 4. Bulleteer 3 through 4. And Seven Soldiers number 1. Now, the Frankenstein miniseries is done by Doug Mankey. I think this is the same artist who did his ongoing series New 52. I believe so. Yeah, I believe it's the same artist. The Mr. Miracle miniseries. Let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, done by Freddie E. Williams II. Yep, he's the one who does the artwork for this series. Here's a sample of the guy's artwork. And here is Doug Mankey. Also a really good artist. When I get the Comic Con next week, I'm gonna have Yannick Potter. I think it's a woman. I'm not really sure. Have this person sign this sign this trade. Yeah, and this artist also does the Bulleteer miniseries. Yep. I think it's a woman. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it does the Bulleteer series. Yeah, here's more of this wonderful artwork. Yeah, and it's really good. I'll talk about these miniseries in a minute, basically what they're about and where these characters have been since then. Yeah. Okay, that's a Frankenstein one. Let's see. That's Mr. Miracle. Okay, Jason. Oh, I almost forgot about the Seven Soldiers, the Shining Light one. Yeah, for some reason, even though it's King Arthur era, for some reason they decided to have the main villain of this whole series be an alien. Yeah, I'm not kidding about that. That's simply what they did with it. The Bulleteer series was a new character called the Bulleteer. Great character. Mr. Miracle is it's the third official one because they had one debut, Mr. Miracle number 1, who died in the same issue. This guy, I think his name is Simon something. I don't remember his name. Let me look up and see what his last name is. His name is Shiloh. Yeah, Shiloh is his name. Shiloh something. I don't remember the guy's last name. Shiloh Norma, I think his name is. Yeah, he was the apprentice to the original to the Scott-free Mr. Miracle, who's implied to be dead at this point. So he put him in this costume. The Bulleteer is an interesting character, and even recently reappeared in Tim Seeley's human trafficking arc for Green Lanterns, which God praise him for bringing back this character, which I think this version of her is a creation of Grant Morrison. Frankenstein, of course, would appear frequently in New 52. He would have his own ongoing series, appearing in the issue of Almac. Yes, he appeared in New 50 Futures End, but that's not the timeline, don't count that. He appeared in a few issues of Peter Tomasi's run for Batman and Robin. He recently showed up in Superman of all places. I think that's it. Yep. Now, the reason why on this cover you have Frankenstein, Shining Mr. Miracle, and the Bulleteer take up the cover, because that's kind of how this thing works. It's like, okay, we have Satana, Shining Knight, and Caloran at the front first as moving more characters to cover. You gotta praise it for that. And simply put, the Shining Knight and 700 Victim number 1 did pretty much wrap up this entire storyline. And I got a hand to Grant Morrison. These were great miniseries. And yes, I have read all of them, but I don't own Volume 3. Who knows, I might get it at Comic-Con. If I find it, of course. Depends on if I can find it when I go to Comic-Con next week. When I get this one, 9.5 out of 10. It's really good, and I highly recommend getting the other 3 volumes. It's just a really good series. Really good series of trades, and the series over in the whole the whole entire crossover overall for it, the whole meta series of Seven Soldiers of Victory. Next up is Shazam! Volume 1. Yeah, despite the fact it's called Volume 1, this is the only one they ever did, for good reason. Because this pretty much this whole trade just collects his entire backup feature from Justice League. And what issues had his storyline? Well, had his feature anyways. Okay. These are the issues that had the backup feature for Shazam, aka Captain Marvel. Justice League, Volume 2, Issues 7 through 11, 0, 14, 16, 18, 21. Yep, that is simply put what this trade collects. And throughout this storyline, we get the debut in this particular thing, not only of Captain Marvel, but also the Wizard, though the Rock Eternity did also show up in this technically is the first appearance of Rock Eternity in this continuity, and yes, did appear in the first issue of Trinity San Pandora, though chronologically that was his first appearance, but technically, appearing in issue 0 is the official first appearance of the Rock Eternity. We also had the first appearances of Captain Marvel Jr., Mary Marvel, Tawny, yeah, he shows up in here, though he's just a regular tiger. Black Adam, obviously, Dr. Savannah, and in the last story, we had the first post-Flash appearance, and so far the only time this character has shown up, Mr. Mind. Yep, Mr. Mind. And it's interesting, though, the fact that Black Adam was kept in a tomb, which that is pretty consistent of how he was pretty much depicted pre-Flashpoint. As a matter of fact, even pre-Crisis, he was kept in a tomb for centuries, until he's woken up present day, though at the time when Captain Marvel's first appearance, it was the 1940s. Now, those of you curious, has Captain Marvel ever had his own series published by DC? Yes. 3 series. He had the Shazam series published back in the 1970s, the Power Shazam in the 1990s, and Trials of Shazam, a 12-issue maxi series. The original one was a series that was licensed from Fawcett. Now, there's a very curious thing about Captain Marvel, aka, well, even what's called Shazam. You see, because he was outselling Superman, DC sued Fawcett for copyright infringement because they thought that he looked like Superman. If I thought he was basically their Superman. Okay, first of which, Shazam, well, I should call him Captain Marvel. He gets his powers from magic, and he's a human, not an alien. Yeah, he wears red. But mostly put, Superman wears blue, and has a red cape. Captain Marvel has got a white cape. Yes, a white cape. The lightning bolt is very consistent of him, and I do like the new design they gave him. And Black Adam's costume he wears in here, it's the same exact costume except it's all black. And I do appreciate them, even though it's a Jim Lee inspired design with the lines, it's the same costume. If you take away the unnecessary lines, it's essentially put the same exact costume. In the case of Captain Marvel, I think Gary Frank made him a lot more bulkier than he was pre-Flashpoint. Yeah, he was big and buff, but not like this. He is like souped up on steroids. Yeah. Now, my friend Tivia, I think, has reviewed this, and he didn't really care for this. Me personally, I actually like this. I really do. I mean, yes, I do enjoy Captain Marvel stories. This actually is a good interpretation of him, but here's the weird thing about this. As soon as his feature ended, he got caught up in Trinity War, and then he basically went missing in Forever Evil, and then was added as part of, well, he did show up during Dawn of Atlantis outside of these stories, though after Forever Evil he appeared in Justice League for pretty much the last couple years of Jeff Johns' run for the book, and then when Brian Hitch took over, he was dropped from the book for no explained reason, along with Captain Coda Lex Luthor. Yeah, I have never figured out why. And then his most recent appearance was 2 years ago in a cameo appearance in Hellblazer Rebirth. Yeah. Oh yeah, he did also appear as a recurring character in the first film Cyborg, which not a bad idea because even depicted in the first Justice League War and Justice League Dawn of Atlantis, Billy Batson and Victor Stone are really good friends, so it kind of makes sense that the Cyborg comic book would have the character of, well, Shazam, even though he's Captain Marvel, have Captain Marvel become a recurring character, even though he only appeared for like the second half of the first volume. But it was great to see the guy. That was his only time he actually appeared outside of Justice League, which is kind of weird. I mean, it's kind of like no one in DC gave a damn about Captain Marvel. Now, I do agree, calling the character Shazam is really stupid, because that's the name of the wizard, not his code name. Like, I don't think people have a problem calling his comic book Shazam. Calling the character that is really stupid, because he's been Captain Marvel since 1940s. Though Marvel has a... Now, there is a reason why his comic is not called Captain Marvel, because Marvel owns that name, so can't use that series. Fine, call him Shazam. Fine. But having him call the character called Shazam is kind of stupid. Yeah. Though they do have the whole thing with the 7 deadly sins. Yeah, they actually do. They do kind of show up in here, but they don't play a big part in here. Yeah, it's like their appearance in here is minor. Yeah, they get more development in the Trinity of San Pandora series than they do in a series. Here's the thing about the 7 deadly sins, is that they were more background things in the Captain Marvel stories. And then for some reason, the New 52, they brought them to life, and they have Pandora basically pretty much capture all of them and put them back in their statues. Also, the Wizard Shazam actually died in the story. Yeah, he actually died. And I thought this was a really neat thing Jeff Johns did. He actually had Black Adam go to the Rock of Eternity, because, come to think of it, in a lot of the stories I've read about him, he has never visited the Rock of Eternity in present day. I think he did appear when he was like in ancient Egypt time. But in the case of present day, he has never visited the place. And also, they don't use the Power of Shazam origin story where he was, where it's 10th Adam, a guy who was an associate of the Batsons who actually killed them. Here, they kind of made him back to his pre-crisis version where he's a guy who was in prison for years and an actual, from that era. Though for some reason they made him a guy who killed his own nephew. Though he turned into ash at the end of the series, and this was later followed upon at the start of Trinity War when Captain Marvel took his ashes to his home country, which was a nice thing to do for him. Though here's something really kind of dumb. You know his supporting cast he has in here, which are essentially put, with the exception of Mary Marvel and Captain Marvel Jr., are characters from the Flashpoint miniseries Jeff Johns did back in 2011, when they all became Captain Thunder. When they have 5 kids merged together to become Captain Thunder. Here, it's like, he liked those kids, so he put them here as supporting characters for Billy Batson. And Billy Batson's kind of a jerk. Yeah, no getting around. He's basically made to a jerk, which I don't mind that. It's a good new interpretation of him. And do they have him where he's stuck as Captain Marvel for a good long while, and it takes a long time for him to go back to being Billy Batson. And then he simply, at the end of the thing, he shares his powers with his basically his adopted family, though it's never stated in here if Mary is in fact his twin sister. Both in pre-crisis and post-crisis, up until New 52, Mary was always his twin sister. That was one thing they kept about her. Though they made other changes to the character, they always kept her as his twin sister. Here, they don't say anything at all. They just made her an adopted sister of his, except being a blooded relative, which I think was quite stupid, making her his adopted sister, which makes it kind of implied that Jeff Johns is implying you could see a sexual relationship between Billy Batson and Mary. Yeah. Though there's a brief mention of his parents, though they don't have him as a radio reporter working for Fawcett Radio like he was in, well, over the years. Here, he's just a guy, he's just a trouble kid who goes through foster care for years. They have his mid-teens, which that is actually what he was in the 2000s, where he was in his teens. Though Jay Garrick thought he was in his 20s, so he's actually in his teens. But I enjoy this. Pretty good. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. Though I know my friend Tibby didn't like this one. I do, though. And Gary Frank's artwork is fantastic. Love this story. I kind of wish we had a Captain Marvel ongoing series just called Shazam. I mean, there's nothing wrong with calling that. It's just that, well, I think DC just doesn't care. And there's a very stupid theory out there that any time that he has a series, it can't last very long. Nope, because DC just doesn't care about this character's popularity. Despite the fact his series probably do very good in the sales, they just don't care because they're afraid he might outsell Superman. It's an old superstition by DC Comics. This has been there since the 1950s. I'm not kidding about this. Because if you look at any of the series featuring this character, like the two series ahead, like the first one lasted for like a few years, like 35 issues. His Power Shazam series lasted for 41 issues, though it did have one issue revival for Blackest Night. Which makes that series lasted for almost 3.5 years in the late 90s. It was a great comic book that Jerry Ordway wrote all the issues, though about halfway through the series, he took over the artwork duties as well, because the guy is a fantastic artist. But DC, get off your stupid high horse about your stupid superstition about how a Captain Marvel comic published by DC can outsell Superman. Superman is doing fine in the sales, and you're afraid that Captain Marvel might outsell it? Who freaking cares? Okay? I'm sure a lot of people do want to see him as an ongoing series again. A lot of people. But some DC higher-ups just do not care. They don't think he's a profitable character. That's just my theory anyways. But in my opinion, he is a profitable character. And also, please, for the love of God, put his Power Shazam series in trade, not just his Blackest Night issue. I mean, yes, you put his first Flyman trade, though, that you skip a couple issues because Dylan writes to certain stuff because related to the character Isis. You can still put his Power Shazam series into trade. Well, you did put one issue of it in the Starman Omnibus book, but you can give his own series. I mean, how long would it take? Like 4 books. Yeah, it would take just 4 books just to collect the entire series of Power Shazam. It's a great comic book. I highly recommend it. But DC would never put this in a trade because they're so jealous of the character. They have been for decades. Get over it, DC. Alright? So, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode, which is going to be episode 609 and Doubleshot number 615. And that one, I'm going to cover a cosmic series and a series where I'm covering a trade that is associated with stuff by Greg Rucka. You'll find out what they are in the next episode, okay? Want to see you there. Bye.